Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be having a look at various Atari systems running on the Steam Deck. So we're going to start off with one of the very earliest ones that you could use in the home, and that's the Atari 2600. So by this time Atari had already had a couple of arcade games, and those had been massive hits. So they turned upon the home computer market. And they'd done like the most basic sort of Pong games, and they started releasing a few cartridge-based games. So that was Carnival, and we're not going to spend too long on these. This is Combat, which came packed with a lot of 2600s when you bought one. Today, looking at these games, with a few exceptions, they are incredibly basic. I mean, we're talking 40 plus years old now, so some of these really are starting to show their age. So with a few exceptions, they're not that much fun to play anymore, and it's a shame because I always had a soft spot for the 2600, but I just don't have the patience to play a lot of these, with the exception of some of the Activision ones. So this is like Fishing Derby, which is they were so ahead of what anybody else was really producing back then. Was old Activision, and these truly are fantastic when you think what they actually had to play with. Fishing Derby was always a sort of a classic, wasn't it? This is another huge hit on the 2600. This one, Pac-Man, were massive. Asteroids. The Atari 2600 Space Race, I mean, it's a really good version of it. I mean, it is excellent in actual fact. And it was by far the best way to play Space Invaders outside of the arcade. And of course you mustn't forget that early Nintendo games actually came out on this console as well. Some like Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong actually had a release on an Atari system. This is probably one of the very best 2600 games, which was Pitfall. Another one from Activision. Very, very good indeed. Thanks once again to my loyal patrons and channel members. There he is, Pitfall Harry. Oh, straight into the mouth of the crocodile. Been a while since I played Pitfall, but I remember it being fantastic. And you could sort of go on for quite a while once you knew how to get past each screen. Now we're moving on to the Atari 5200, which I honestly do not remember seeing it out over here. We had sort of the home computer equivalent, sort of the Atari 800 XL. Was the sort of the equivalent to the 5200. I certainly had this one on my 800 XL, but this is, as I said, this is the cartridge version, which ran on the Atari 5200 for Ball Blazer. This is a very early game from Lucasfilm of Star Wars fame. They of course went on to create all manner of really highly polished games back in the day. This one's pretty cool. I mean, the soundtrack's banging. It's like a sort of like a video football match. And this is another real great one. There was a Miner 2049er. Then there was this sequel, which is Bounty Bob Strikes Back. And I actually had this one back in the day, once again on cartridge, but I couldn't for the life of me remember how to play it until I realised you had to sort of walk over each bit of each platform. But I remember absolutely loving it on my 800 XL and getting fairly far into it. I used to belong to an Atari club as well, locally, and it was basically a pirating club. You'd go along and there would be people with their setups and doing lots of tape to taping. This is a incredibly polished Junior Pac-Man. Wow, this is a quick game. You've got to be really sharp wits here. I mean, right from the off, it's super difficult. And I would say I was a Pac-Man aficionado. I really love Pac-Man. I play all the different versions of it, but this one's tough. Might be a little bit easier with a joystick, but on these Atari emulators on the Steam Deck, and I'm using EmuDeck, which is the all-in-one encompassing emulator, it's not actually using the Steam Deck's analog controllers at all, having to use the buttons, but that's okay. EmuDeck is using one of the emulators through RetroArch. This is another one that I played on either the 400 or the 800 Ataris. This is River Raid. Great game. Just work your way up the river. Try not to blow up the fuel. Get under little bridges and stuff like that. It's quite tough. Once again, it was another Activision classic. These really were so good back in the day. Just loved them. I said I didn't really think it warranted doing a video on all the different systems because, well, yeah, the Steam Deck is so powerful it doesn't have any issues emulating them, but it is still quite nice to actually have a look at the games running on the Steam Deck and get a feel for how they play. These don't seem too bad. It's just some of those earlier 2600 games just, you know, I think they've just about had their time. This is very nice. This is now onto the Atari 7800, so I did have one of these. And they basically, you know, used the improved hardware capabilities to re-release all the classic games, the best sellers. It wasn't anything like as big a library as the 2600, but here is a classic example of a Nintendo game running on an Atari system, something you just would not see today. Not a bad little version of Donkey Kong. This is another arcade port, Ikari Warriors. This is a fantastic game in the arcade, and I used to spend a long time watching it. If people were really good at it, this was an incredible game just to watch, if you found someone who could really play it well. Now, it's a bit harder on the Steam Deck, particularly using the directional control pad, because, you know, in the game you could shoot diagonally, and that's a lot harder on the Steam Deck here. So this one didn't really lend itself very well to playing on the deck, but good to see they even attempted it, to be honest, and it's not a bad version. Now we're moving on to the Atari Jaguar. This is a game you don't often see demoed. This is Atari Kart, so all I can imagine is this is Atari's attempt to come up with some sort of Mario Kart clone, in effect. So they had a racing game to play around with. I never really got into the Jaguar. I had a brand new one, so back in the 90s, late 90s, the Chain Game in the UK were selling off Jaguars and Atari Lynxes brand new. They were like £30 each, sealed, and I picked up a sealed Jaguar. Never even bothered to open it, had a few games with it because I was never that into it. I did, however, buy a couple of Lynxes off them, Atari Lynxes, and that was a system I seriously collected for a long time. I had 3 different boxed ones. I had a box of the second version of it, and I had a boxed version of the very original one, but more the blocky one. And this is also on the Jaguar, Pinball Fantasies. You know, I love a pinball game. But yeah, on the Atari Lynx, I think there was only about 70 to 80 games officially released for it back in the day, and I think I had the whole lot, but I didn't have them all boxed. I had about half of them boxed, and the rest of them were loose carts. And I actually bought an almost complete run in cart form only of one guy, all in one hit. He was a big retro collector and he was thinning down his collection. I bought a pinball machine off him, ironically, at the same day. It was a Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man pinball full-size machine, and his Atari Lynx collection, amongst some other bits and pieces that I had. And never forget that. I bought Box Vectrix that day, I remember, 50 quid. That was pretty good. Here we are on the Atari Lynx now, and this was the one that came with most systems. It was Blue Lightning. It was a real incredible feat at the time on a handheld. I actually had this one in an advanced sort of demo cart as well, which sort of played a little bit of it. They were so keen to show this one off. To be honest, I probably could do a dedicated Atari Lynx video, because I could easily find 20 games that still look really excellent today. I had no trouble at all showing you 6 of my favourites, which we'll see coming up now. It really was a great system, and I think, you know, I've always preferred handhelds rather than the standalone consoles, and I don't know why. I just love the portability side of things, and thankfully Lynx games still look good on this. They really do. And on this emulator you can actually turn it into vertical mode, so some games do actually look pretty good in vertical mode. So if you want to do that, it's there. These have got like a widescreen hack on, so the Lynx screen was actually widescreen anyway, but this is sort of maximising the Steam Deck's screen time and real estate, and I think they do a really, really good job. Checkered flag. Let's have a racing game. It's great. It plays really well. It's just it's lacking other cars on the track. I think it's more a race against time rather than anything else, you know. At least your car's not smashed to smithereens when you hit an obstacle either. But I shall definitely be checking out a bit more of the Atari Lynx library. This was just so nostalgic, and this is a great game, I tell you. You've got to say, this is, for its time, 1989, this was really something, particularly in handheld form. I remember I had so many Lynxes at one point. I think I had, as well as the boxed ones, I had 2 or 3 spare loose ones, and I gave one to my friend with a copy of this game. He was best man at my wedding, so this is one of his presents as a thank you. And I know he played it to death. It's a really good little puzzle game. You sort of have to go around and go around the maze, get different keys which will unlock different doors, collect the circuit chips as you go along to finish the level. So it's a puzzle game, but it's a really, really great one. Very, very clever level design. Once I'd figured out how to play it again, it had been so long. Yeah, good stuff, this. So while I think of it, next week I am going to try one of the more modern systems again. I haven't decided which one yet. I'm going to see if I can get another 20 GameCube games together. That might be a bit of fun, if I've got the time. This was a fantastic sideways shooter, Gates of Zendikon. Absolutely amazing, and what a soundtrack. Just superb. So yeah, so I'm thinking of possibly another GameCube, sort of a follow-up one, so 20 more GameCube games. Old school-wise, I think I'll do a ColecoVision and Intellivision joint video, so say 10 games from each system. That would probably be enough to cover those, to be honest. So that'd be pretty good. I'm definitely going to do another follow-up Game Boy Advance video, because we only scratched the surface really on GBA games. There's so much more to cover. TurboGrafx 16 and Final Burn Alpha are also on the list to be covered. So loads more to come. Also, if you're interested, I'll show you what modern games I'm playing on my Steam Deck. I've probably got a nice selection to show you now of games that I'm enjoying, that I've literally brand new, bought off the Steam store. So maybe that'll be a good video to have a look at what I'm sort of playing on my deck. This is fantastic. I remember having this one as a boxed version. Big fan of Gauntlet. Used to collect everything related to it. I had a few bits of Gauntlet memorabilia as well. Sadly all gone now, and I do sort of slightly regret it because I did love all the sort of bits about Gauntlet and all the graphics and memorabilia that came with it. I had a Gauntlet mark, the plastic sign that was the top of the arcade machine. I never got to own the actual machine. Never had anywhere to put it, unfortunately, but I did get the game mark at one point, which I do regret getting rid of along with my Pac-Man one. But hey ho, you cannot keep it all. At least we can still keep playing the games. And this was always good. When I played Gauntlet, I was usually the wizard. Anyway, time for just one more. But thank you very much for watching this one today. This is Robotron 2084, an absolute classic. I hope you have enjoyed it. This little trip down Atari memory lane. I've certainly enjoyed putting it together. If you have, do please hit that subscribe button. And do please like the video and leave a comment down below with any games you'd like me to cover in a future Atari video. I do read all the comments and reply if I can, and I will take requests for future videos, so yeah, drop a comment down below. Thanks for watching today. Bye.